If you live in a world in which the laws of that world fit with the natural world, then it suggests that, in fact, you are living the way you are supposed to live, the way that the world intends you to live. If there is, I'm not saying this is a proof, but that it's a support, no doubt. If there is a God who ordains a certain morality, and you live that morality, and in fact it creates a good society and a happy life, and all those things, then of course it lends credence to the idea that the world is designed a certain way by a designer who wants a certain thing. And when you say, well, I'm going to take all those moral principles and separate them from God and watch, if you do those and you learn science, you're going to live a good life, all I would say is, absolutely it does. That's exactly what religion has been saying, and the reason it has been saying that is because religion is based on the notion that there is this invisible order which human beings can participate in, that is ordained by something that is transcendent, and all those things combine to provide the religious person not with proof, because you don't ask for the same kind of proof that you do in science, but with conviction that that's true. Wait, it's not a question of convenience. It's not a question of convenience. Do you ask for the same? If I say Sam Harris's prose is straightforward, do you say, it's very convenient that you don't have to prove that scientifically? No, you say, correctly, the judgment of straightforward prose, even though it may be universally shared, is not something that's susceptible of scientific proof. It's just the way it is. Or if I say Saul Bell is a wonderful writer, and you say to me, put that in a test tube, put that in a test tube, or I won't believe it.
Yes. But no
the existence of God is not a scientific claim.
No scientist and no atheist has ever argued that every claim is scientific or needs to be subjected to that kind of proof. This is really a matter of common sense, and yet religious discourse
I couldn't agree with you more. It is a matter of common sense. And yet it's violated all the time when you say to me, why isn't there any proof for God? And the answer is, it's not a scientific claim. That's exactly, for the last, 45 minutes, that's what I've been trying to say.
What people actually believe is that one, they're rewarded after death in certain circumstances. They will be rewarded. There's a difference between an eternity of happiness and an eternity of suffering. And it really matters what name you call God and what you believe and the precise kinds of practices you engage. And in the case of Islam, it matters if you die in the right circumstances, and nothing's more auspicious than dying a martyr.
So I'm happy to make common cause with you to say this kind of religion is bad religion. Okay, but when you extrapolate that to all religion is bad and we should have the end of faith, what you're doing is you're doing the equivalent of saying, because there is junk science, let's throw out all the PhDs.
No, it's a false analogy. I'm objecting to the very thing you are typifying in this conversation. You are saying that religion is not a matter of making those claims to knowledge. Religion.
No, I said God isn't.
God, the
God
belief in God.
Yeah, those two are not identical. Religion is a path to God. Because religion is a path to God.
What are you calling God?
What am I calling God?
Where is God?
God is the intangible creator of the universe, in whose presence a human being can live, and according to whose dictates or will a human being can live in this world.
But what is your evidence for the existence of God right now?
I don't have evidence because it's not a scientific claim.
Okay, but unless you want to say,
I shouldn't say it that way. I don't have proof because it's not a scientific claim. If you want a supporting idea, I would say my understanding of other human beings and my experience of other human beings, which leads me to believe that there's something more than material. My understanding of the design of the world, which leads me to believe that we're here not by accident. My appreciation of the fact that human beings, even though we are made of stuff, have consciousness, which leads philosophers like Galen Strawson to assume that even rudimentary material has consciousness because he can't explain how consciousness arises. Right. My experience of religious human beings and the way they live and the fact that they live in harmony, to my perception, with an invisible order that gives them a life of a certain sanctity and holiness.
This is a general claim. Religious human beings generally live in harmony with...
No, I said my experience of certain human beings. I mean, I can keep going if you want me to keep going.
Well, no, I think you've put enough on the table.
Okay, but none of those are scientific evidence.
Many of those claims trespass upon the territory of science overtly. I mean, the claim about your understanding other human beings being suggestive of a divine artificer.
Is that a scientific claim?
Absolutely.
extraordinary.
Is your understanding of mathematics also suggestive of a divine artificer?
No, it has to do with my experience.
Your ability to learn language?
Do you understand? It has to do with my experience of you. When I'm looking at you right now,
right.
You may assume that what I see is a material, but that's not what I see. And it's not what I believe. And I think that
I understand it's not what you believe.
There's something in you that is more than you believe. I really think so.
This is
now, if you want to make that a scientific claim, you can. But I'm telling you, it's a metaphysical claim, and to confuse the two is a mistake.
Okay, you can add any metaphysics you want.
Thank you.
In that, by that means, I mean, I can say, I see you as a reincarnate personality, and I think you were probably.
I was someone famous
on Atlantis. Yes.
Right. Don't make me like a washerwoman in a previous
People do this all the time. I mean, you can broadcast. I mean, this is constrained by our common sense in every other domain of discourse. I mean, just take, for example, the people who think Elvis is still alive. Okay, what's wrong with this claim? I mean, why is this claim not vitiating our academic departments and corporations? I mean, I'll tell you why, and it's very simple. We have not passed laws against believing Elvis is still alive. The problem is that whenever somebody seriously represents his belief that Elvis is still alive in a conversation, on a first date, at a lecture, at a job interview, he immediately pays a price.
Yes.
Yeah. He pays a price in ill-concealed laughter.
Right. Now, surely you can agree with him on that.
That is a good thing. Now, then he could rattle on about this is not a scientific claim. This is a matter of faith. You know, when I look at you, I see you. You might be Elvis. I mean, he could do this.
Except that, you know, this is like the I mean, almost all the books. I don't believe it's in your book, to your credit, but the Bertrand Russell teapot analogy, right, which Dawkins is so fond of, that there might be a celestial teapot circling the globe.
I think it's in my book too.
Is it? Shame on you. If you make a claim about the existence of a physical entity like Elvis or a teapot, yes, that is evaluated the way you evaluate any other physical entity. That's why I keep saying, and I will say it again, that it is not a scientific claim to say that I believe you have a soul or that God exists. If it were a scientific claim, then you would be able to evaluate it the same way you could get a telescope and look for a teapot. But you can't.
Let me ask a question that deals with, change gears on you guys here.
Yeah.
A question that deals with human creativity. Okay. Religion has inspired a lot of great works. Look at the world of music, the visual arts. Okay, let's just, for a second, say the world comes over to your way of thinking.
Right.
How does that affect the arts? Music, literature, The Simpsons. You know, I'm just curious. What would that creative world be without that?
I think it's a false fear. The idea that we wouldn't find any reason to build beautiful architecture or paint nice paintings, but for indulging certain religious superstitions. It's just not. I think Feynman once wrote that it was a poor poet who must fall silent when he finds out that the sun is actually a massive sphere of hydrogen fusing into helium. I mean, it's not. The claim is that you have to take something on faith to be creative, and I think it's a product of an argument that you used briefly early on, which is a fallacious one. This idea that the percentages of people who do these great, I think you used it in the connection
in terms of goodness, not in terms of art.
Yeah, in terms of goodness.
Right.
Most people.
Was it not fallacious in goodness?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
No, it's fallacious. Okay. Most people are doing this good work are doing it for religious reasons. Well, most people, most of the time, have been religious throughout human history. There has been no one else to do the job. This is true.
Yeah.
I mean, most people who have plucked chickens have plucked them while believing in God. That does not mean you need to believe in God to pluck a chicken.
That is precisely why. That is precisely why it's important to look at the 20th century and the 19th century, when it was possible to have societies that didn't believe in God and to see what happened.
But you have
and when I did that, you said, but they didn't believe what I believe. And what I'm saying is that if
very
you had
few people do believe what you believe. Apparently.
No, I being Sam Harris here, not what David Wolpe, believe. You said when I said Napoleon, the French Terror, the Civil War, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, Pol Pot, all these. As soon as it became possible to have non-religious regimes, look what happened to the world. You said, but what about people who believe what I do? And what I'm saying to you is that thus far in the world, extraordinarily enough, when you remove religion from a society, it is not ruled by Sam Harris's. That's not the way it seems to work. Now, you'll tell me this is a utilitarian argument, and indeed it is. This doesn't prove that religion is true, but it certainly does prove that there is a values vacuum in societies when you suck religion out of it or force it out that is, to my way of thinking, terrifying.
It does not prove that simply because you have to look at what else these people believe. There is a values vacuum in religion. There's a values vacuum in an organization like the Catholic Church that preaches the sinfulness of condom use in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, there's a values vacuum in that same institution that shelters its pedophile priests.
Yeah.
Literally an army of child rapists,
yes,
based on its own intent upon maintaining its integrity as a religious institution. There's a values vacuum in, and I could go on. And it's not like religion is this perfect advertisement for the kinds of values you get once you believe that your book was dictated by the greater universe.
It is an imperfect institution that is adopted by imperfect people in an imperfect world. And if you expect that it's going to be perfect, then you will be consistently disappointed. And that's why every religion that I know of emphasizes the fact that goodness is a continual and often failed struggle. And
as does science.
One would expect that science doesn't emphasize that goodness is a continual but failed struggle, right? Sure. Certain scientists may, but science as a whole doesn't say anything about the metaphysical nature of human goodness. And by the way, Richard Feynman said explicitly that science and religion ought to be able to coexist. So I'm glad that you quoted him, because that lets me get that little appercue in.